going on, everyone? Welcome back to another edition post UFC 304. Now we jump into UFC on ABC, Sandhagen versus Nurmagomedov. Actually, I think this is going to be a better card than UFC 304. We're going to touch on UFC 304 a little bit, and we're going to jump right into this card. I got to be honest with you, from a performance perspective, this card really underperformed. So we're going to get into that a little bit, just touch on a couple of the fights I was really disappointed with, talk about Mokaev being cut. Well, not cut, not renewing his contract and such. Before we jump into that, I just wanted to touch briefly on what happened in the Olympics. If you guys don't follow the Olympics, I kind of boycotted it a little bit with all the stuff that's going on, but obviously I follow the boxing end of it feverishly, women and men's, it doesn't matter. And I think that what happened in the Olympics with the girl from Italy was kind of disgraceful. When you have a woman that she's going up against that fails the gender identity test, and now, mind you, there is no test that it's like a box and it says, you know, gender identity, and this is the name of the test. There's no test, but there's a litany and a battery of tests that you can take to identify the chromosomes and stuff like outside of testosterone levels, right? So she fought a woman who failed these tests outside. These tests in March 2023. She did not take a testosterone test. This was not a part of the package for the gender identity test, and she failed them, and they banned her from the world championships. 1 year later, she comes and she's allowed to fight in the Olympics, and she fights a girl from Italy who literally within 46 seconds in, she practically pulled a Roberto Duran, and she said no mas. And she just couldn't take the power. She says, I've never been hit like that before. So now there's two different sides of the ball here. You got the sides that are completely fine with men pursuing female sports. You have the middle row are the people who say, well, you know, this is kind of a genetic thing. She was kind of born a woman, but the biology in her body, you know, it's just the way her makeup is. Like, listen, everybody's genetic code is different. People have genetic defaults, so it's really not her fault, you know. And then you got the other side that says, well, look, this is a man. Like, at the end of the day, this is a woman with male chromosomes that should not be fighting in combat sports or any sports for that matter. So there's a lot of wishy-washy. You know, there's kind of three sides to the ball, and there's one side that I lean with, obviously the farther side, that has a little bit more common sense, that says, you know, she shouldn't be in sports with men. Then there's the middle side where I could say, okay, well, I understand what you're saying. I understand if this was, I don't know if this is the case, but if this was a situation where she was born with this genetic default, then it's not her fault. But it doesn't take away the fact that, yeah, okay, I feel bad for her if that's the case. That sucks. That this is what she wants to do, and this is the card that she was dealt. But the fact of the matter is, it doesn't take away the fact that she cannot pursue a female in a sport like boxing. You want to do it in archery, you want to do it in bowling, you want to do it in pool, you want to do it in sports like that. Then I'd say, all right, you know what? It is what it is. It's not contact. There's no like real genetic edge. But when you're doing it with a sport, especially boxing, where it's one of the most dangerous, violent sports out there, you're going to put a girl that took this gender identity test, that it didn't come out, forget about her testosterone, it came out with her chromosomes, that she was kind of leaning male. You cannot, in any circumstance, put him or they, or whatever you want to call it, in a ring with a woman. You just can't do it. This girl saved her own life. That's what you got to understand. Like, the ref didn't stop the fight. It wasn't like she literally said she knew that if she stayed in that ring with that person, she was going to get obliterated and possibly hurt and possibly killed. You know, so she went to her corner and she said no. Like, she literally just said no. I've never tasted power like that before, and I quit. 46 seconds in. So my point of the whole factor is why people are feeling bad for this woman, saying, oh, well, you know, what if it was that? What if it was a genetic disposition? You know, it was testosterone levels and this and that, blah, 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 which it wasn't testosterone levels, because the battery test that she took in March of 2023, that wasn't concluded. The testosterone wasn't concluded in that package. The fact of the matter is You should feel bad for the girl from Italy. This is a girl who she had aspirations and dreams to be an Olympic hopeful, to stand on the podium one day, whether it's gold, silver, or bronze, or just to compete. And that was her dream. And now her dream will be lived as a nightmare. You know, to know that this girl was in, mind you, we don't look at it that way. We don't look at it. We feel bad. Like I generally feel bad for this girl. You know, we don't look at her that way. But for her eyes looking out at it, she's saying, well, I trained my whole life for this. And this is the card I was dealt. They gave me this person that should have not been in there with me and took my Olympic dreams and aspirations away from me. And not to mention, I didn't even get to fight for them. I had to quit. That's just disgraceful and disgusting, in my opinion. I mean, this has got to stop. Like, what is going on with the world? Like, what is going on with the world? Where do people not see a problem with this? Where do people not see a problem? You could say all you want. Well, she's this and she's that, but the fact, biology does not say that. Biology says different. When biology comes back and tells you something, that's what the facts are. People are saying it was shady tests and it's a shady organization. It doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is they banned her for a reason in March. They banned her for a reason in March, along with another athlete, okay, for a gender. It wasn't high testosterone levels and she got caught with PEDs and this and that. This was an identity test that they culminated a bunch of different forms of tests outside of the testosterone, chart. And it was concluded that this girl was leaning towards male chromosomes. Like, this is not someone who should be fighting with women. She was allowed in the Olympics. And this is the product of what happened, and I think it's disgraceful. I really do. I think it's really disgraceful, and I don't see where people don't see a problem with this. I don't see, like, I'm sure there's people out there who have daughters. Like, I don't have kids, but if I had a daughter and I found out that there was like somebody fighting my daughter or playing football against my daughter or wrestling my daughter, like, I have a big problem with that. A big problem with that. So I don't know what's going on, but the Olympics are losing a lot of traction. I mean, a lot of traction, a lot of respect. I mean, I can go on and on about about certain things. I'm not a super religious guy, but I know the Christians and the religious people are really up in arms about what happened with the kind of Last Supper thing and all that stuff, the way they kind of made a mockery of that. And just, I mean, even back in the day, I hate to say it, like, I'm not big into rap or anything, but you know, you got Snoop Dogg lighting the Olympic torch. Like, out of all the people that you could find to light the Olympic torch, you have Snoop Dogg lighting the Olympic torch. What happened when like guys like Muhammad Ali lit the Olympic torch? Like, you can find somebody else like to light the Olympic torch. Like, really think about that. So I don't know. Like, this Olympics is just, it's kind of a reflection on what's going on in the world. Not a big fan of it. So I haven't really watched the Olympics. I couldn't tell you what's going on in the Olympics. But like I said, when I saw the highlights of that, I was kind of heartbroken for the girl, and I'll just leave it there. Anyway, so last week the card was not good, definitely underperformed. Dana White already came out and said that he will not give any more upticked bonuses, which means, like, normally they're $50,000. Now he's saying, like, don't come onto the podium and say 100,000, 300,000. They ain't doing it no more. You could blame the guys from UFC 304, 7 decisions in a row. Now, I think the factor of that is attributed to the time. You got to picture yourself. You got a circadian rhythm in your body that tells you when it wants to sleep. Even if you're fighting sleep, your body kind of shuts off and you got to kind of turn it on. So there was no advantage anywhere. I mean, the guys that lived over the pond, they had to break their circadian rhythm and they had to fight wee hours into the night. They had to wake their body up and get their body triggering and firing wee hours of the night. Tom Aspinall said he didn't sleep for 24 hours. Then you got the guys coming from over from the States and from different countries that kind of want to stay on the circadian rhythm of the time of the card because they were doing it to kind of, for us in the States, so we can watch it at a decent time. So what do you do at that point? Do you fight sleep? Do you kind of stay on the same time zone? Like, what do you do? So I think that attributed to a little bit. There was kind of a fear factor with who's going to burn out, who's not going to wake up, who's going to have an adrenaline dump, who's going to, the weight cuts and stuff like that. Your body, like, your body recovers when you sleep. So if you're awake doing these things, what happens then? So, but overall, it was just a bad card. When you look at the Leon Edwards-Bilal fight, I look at that. Listen, I'm not a Bilal fan. You guys know that. You guys know I don't support him. I don't think he's a guy who should be champion. He's not really super marketable. He's not really good on a microphone. He doesn't have a really action-packed style. He's not, to me, a good champion. Do I think he's going to be champion long? No, but I will defend him here, and here I am. I never thought I would be defending him. He fought a perfect fight. I mean, the guy fought a perfect fight. He did exactly what he needed to do. He stood to the blueprint. He looked good while doing it. He looked aggressive. He looked like he was really trying to push the fight to Leon. And Leon just looked like the Leon from Kamaru Usman when they were on the stool and they were going, come on, son. Come on, son. What are you doing, son? Wake up, son. But the difference between this fight and that fight is he was able to land that kill shot against Kamaru, or else he would have lost that fight too. So Leon Edwards just really didn't show up for that fight. He came out super flat. He did not look like the Leon Edwards that we're used to seeing. Didn't look sharp. Didn't look technical. He looked like he was just accepting positions, and then at the end of the round, he would try. He would get on top of him. He would reverse position. Then it would be the same thing: round 2, round 3, round 4, round 5. People also coming out saying Bilal was on steroids. I mean, it doesn't even equate. And I'll say names like MMA Guru and stuff like that. They posted pictures of Bilal here, and you see the Spike TV sign behind him. Which means that was 12 years ago when Spike TV actually had their hand in it a little bit. And then now, and they're comparing that when he was 23 years old, when his body wasn't even fully developed, to 12 years of just hardcore training for a peak level athlete, maturing into his body. And they're saying that was steroids. I think this is ridiculous. Bilal Muhammad does not do PEDs. So I saw numerous posts about that. These guys don't know what they're talking about. And Bilal Muhammad is not a PED user. I can assure you that. This is a guy who just matured into his body from picture to picture. Great performance. Tom Aspinall did what Tom Aspinall does. This was Mackenzie's lock of the week. Tom Aspinall by KO. She locked that up within 1 minute. He looked fantastic. He looked like he does. And this is exactly what Mackenzie said on the breakdown with Blades. And I said on the breakdown when he's questionable cage IQ. He is a very good wrestler, but he only has 6 takedowns, 3 takedowns in 6 fights, or whatever it is. And he's susceptible to firefights, and he puts his chin on the shelf, and that's exactly what he did as soon as the gate opened, and he paid for it. Bobby Green, why he took that shot, I have no idea. Never seen him do that before. But that was a good fight for Paddy Pimblett. I didn't know if that was a product of Paddy Pimblett looking really good or that was a product of Green making just a ludicrous decision. Rodriguez, what can you say about him? We had Rodriguez, Christian Leroy Duncan. I'm still high on him. Still think he's going to be good, but I had to go with Rodriguez here. He just showed me so much more. Allen won the fight. That's all I can say about that. He won the fight. It wasn't really a high volume fight. Okay, then the one fight I would just jump into. O'Malley McCann. If you guys read the breakdowns, if you're a member at the madlabmma.com, you guys were saved by that write-up, and I hope you did, and I hope you are a member, and if you're not, go over there to madlabmma.com. These are the things that we do. We give you these nooks and crannies and kind of stray you away from the field. There's no way Molly McCann should have been the favorite that she was. There was no way she should have been in the 9K range against anybody. And Born in Brazil proved that. The one fight I was very disappointed with outside of the Loughran fight, I don't even want to talk about that fight, is Mokaev and Cape. How 2 guys can hate each other so much, have so much animosity, fighting in hotels, peeling them off the stage at ceremonial weigh-ins, and have a performance like that is beyond me. It was one of the worst performances of the night for both men. Then at the end, they're hugging it out, and Mokaev is saying, "Give him credit, give him credit." This, that. It was almost like it was an act. It was almost like the UFC told Mokaev, "You're not interesting enough," and Mokaev was trying to build this persona to spark up controversy, only to come out and have a performance like that. He won the fight. We were on the right side of that. I thought he would win in much better fashion. I actually thought he would possibly submit Cape. But now he's in a situation when the UFC is not going to renew his contract for a multitude of reasons. I do think it's a mistake. I think he's 23 years old. He's young. He's 13-0. Dana White came out and said, I think the PFL is going to get a really good undefeated fighter. So he's already kind of proclaiming that, yeah, he is a really good fighter, but we don't want nothing to do with him. I think the UFC should re-sign this guy, come to some kind of a deal. I'm hoping they do. Keep him around for at least a couple more fights and see what he does. So that's all I got to say. All right, let's jump into this card. This is a really good main card. Interesting main card. So you got Cory Sandhagen and Umar Nurmagomedov. Nurmagomedov, obviously, we know comes from the lineage of Khabib and that whole Dagestani crew. I was watching videos of Umar when he was a kid, when Khabib's father was pretty much telling him, to go sit down, I'm going to find you something to do. Like, he was that young. The thing about him is when you look at the lineage of the Nurmagomedovs, you're looking at grappling. You look at their Dagestani handcuffs where they lace your legs, their mauling style of grappling. And Umar's got that, but he really is the guy in the mix that's the striker. This is a guy who's got a taekwondo base. He's got really good kicks. He's got good striking. And then when he needs to, secure something, he's got that path easier because they know, like, he's not only going to attack my legs, this guy's going to strike with me. So when he opens up with the striking, he can kind of change levels and he can, ground you. And he's got a slick back take. He's got tight grappling. He's really, 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 there's nowhere on film that I've seen Nurmagomedov flawed heavily. I've seen, things where I'd say, well, that's just age and he's a little young and he'd probably correct that, or he was a little, loose there. He could have been a little bit tighter. Made a mistake here with a certain pattern in striking, left his chin out on the shelf where he got caught by, who did he get caught by? He got caught on the chin by Bexat in his last fight, a guy who was coming in on short notice, who I said was actually a pretty good fighter, but he had a bad takedown deficiency in his defense. I said that's where Umar would win the fight. But on the feet, he was a snappy fighter, and he showed that. He caught him with a shot. He rocked Umar. And now we talk about what's chinny, right? What is chinny and what is not chinny? So many people get that terminology completely skewed. Chinny does not mean when you get rocked and you get put down and you get up. Okay, that's not chinny. Chinny is when you get knocked down and you don't get up. That's chinny. When you get knocked down and you get up, it means you have a very good recovery status. That's what that means. You want to see that. You don't want to see your guy rocked, but you want to see when he does get rocked, if he does get clipped, if he does go on Queer Street, he's going to recover quick. He's not going to be going back to his corner on stinky legs. Umar showed that. Umar took a clean shot to the temple, and he was able to get his wits really quick, secure a takedown, and ride out the round. But he did that against a guy like Bexat, who just doesn't really do much from his back. So that was the easy path to victory there. So when you look at his resume, though, even though he's 17-0, the best guy he's beaten was Hany Barcelos. And I have all the respect for Hany Barcelos. Hany Barcelos is a guy back in the day where I really believe that he should have had a lot more higher level opposition when he was on his run. It was almost like the UFC was afraid to give this guy to people for some reason. And then he became down-ticked, and he started hitting a down-tick, and Umar got him at a really, really good time. So that was his best level of competition. Now he's fighting a guy in Cory Sandhagen who fought everybody. I mean, the guy fought everybody, and at his age now, he is in his genetic prime. Even though that was a TKO doctor stoppage, he was beating him up the whole fight. He lost to Peter Yan. He lost to TJ Dillashaw. He lost to Aljamain Sterling. He's only losing to really good guys. He beat Frank Yeager, beat Marlon Moraes, beat Rafael Santos, he beat John Lineker, he beat Mario Batista, he beat Alcantara. Back then, Alcantara was really good. So he's beating really good guys, and he's losing to really good guys. And this is a guy who's got a really awkward style. He's got a lot of 5-round experience. 4 of his last 5 fights have been 5-round fights. 2 and 2 in those dances. 17 wins, 7 by knockout, 3 by submission, but he does a lot of his work just in range with his style, with his pace, training in altitude. He's got that 5-round cardio. He's got those lungs. He's long, he's rangy, he's wiry, and he's very tricky to pin down. And you look at him and you look at Umar and you say, yeah, Umar looks the part. He is the part. I'm not saying anything. Like I said, I haven't seen any flaws in Umar's game. But this is a situation where we haven't seen it. You got to show me that you could beat a guy like Cory Sandhagen. Show me you can beat him. You beat Hany Barcelos. That's a good win. It's not a great win because he was on the downtick, but that doesn't show me, because you beat Hany Barcelos and you knocked out and you sent him to the shadow realm, that doesn't show me that you could beat a guy like Cory Sandhagen. So this is a spot where I'm thinking you're going to see the best Cory Sandhagen, whether it's enough to beat a guy like Umar, whether Umar shows you, look, I've been putting my thing in 3rd gear. I'm not even in 4th gear yet because I haven't needed to be in 4th gear because of the level of competition. But now I'm fighting Cory. I'm going to show you 4th and 5th gear. Could be a situation like that where he just rides him, takes Cory's back, which he's susceptible to getting back taken, and choke him out. We're like, holy shit, he did to Cory what Aljo did to Cory. It could be a situation like that. He's got to show me. You got to show me that you're that guy. And until he shows me that he's that guy, I got to go with Cory Sandhagen here. And the price on it to me is crazy. Plus 260. Plus 260 is crazy. Now, if you really want to get tricky and you want to go to the props and you want to look at, Cory by decision or Cory round 5 or decision, or like you could get some pretty crazy odds. But I think the value is on Cory. I think he's being disrespected here. I understand that if you're a real big time, believer in, if you're a real big time believer in Umar, you're probably going to time into parlays and stuff like that. And I get it, but this is a fight. Like I said, you got to show me. You have to show me that you can beat a guy like Cory before I pick you. So my official prediction is I'm going Cory Sandhagen. I'm going to dog here by decision. Next one, Magomedov and Oleanchuk. This is an interesting fight, right? Because when you look at this from out of the gate, you say, well, why is this a co-main event? It's not because of Michel Oleanchuk, that I can tell you. This is a guy who rotates wins and losses. He's finished. He gets finishes. But this is a guy they're not trying to showcase. They're trying to showcase Magomedov here. This is a guy who looks like a pirate. He's got that weird friggin' stinky eye that looks like he's looking somewhere else when he's looking at you. No offense to Michael Bisping. But this is a guy who's already got a part in a movie as a villain. Like he is the part. Like he plays the part. Now we're going to see, can he be the part in some of these fights? He hasn't fought a high level of competition. He hasn't overall looked fantastic in his fights. He fought Tricoli in his last fight, super short notice. Tricoli kind of rolled off the couch, gave a good account of himself until he gassed out. And then Magomedov took advantage of him. When you look at Oleanchuk's record, a lot of his losses are by submission. So you got to wonder, is he going to take this fight to the ground and really throw a wrench in the mix? Maybe Magomedov's got some kind of grappling that we haven't really seen, that he speaks of. He speaks of this grappling game that he has that he hasn't been able to show. So maybe this is a situation where you might want to look at, hey, maybe there's a prop out there, Magomedov by submission, but really high, good odds. Take a little small flyer on that. But I do think this is a fight where Magomedov does showcase here. This is what they're trying to do. They know that Oleanchuk is kill or be killed. And at 13-0, there's going to be a spot where we're going to want to fade Magomedov. I just don't think this is it. From a business perspective, I'm going to side not with Magomedov. I'm going to side with the business end of it. I'm going to decide what they're trying to do from a business perspective. This is, let's showcase him on a co-main event, not let's showcase Oleanchuk on a co-main event. So I'm going to go Magomedov by finish. Next one, you got Marlon Vera, Davis, and Figueiredo. If this was a 5-round fight, I'd be all in on Marlon Vera. From a DraftKings perspective, I want to talk about this a little bit more than the wagering perspective. There is value on Marlon Vera anytime he's on a wagering board. If he's a dog, just for the mere fact that you're getting plus money for a guy that's super, super durable, and he's going to last the entire time. And when you got a guy who lasts the entire time, he's giving you more opportunities to win. You don't want to get a guy, let's say like a Jai Herbert, who, yeah, he could put it on you, but he can also get knocked out in the first round because his chin is bad. Marlon Vera has eaten shots that no mortal man should be able to take, and he just keeps walking forward. The problem with him is he starts late. So if this was a 5-round fight, I'd be much more inclined to jumping on Marlon Vera than I would in a 3-round fight, because in a 3-round fight, let's just say he gives up round 1. Now his back is against the wall. He's either got to get a finish or he's got to win 2 rounds in a row, and it puts you kind of in a pickle, puts you behind the 8 ball against a guy in Davis and Figueiredo who's durable. Is durable, and he's also a former champion. The guy is good. He's bumping up a weight class. He feels much better here. So it puts you in a bad spot. But at the end of the day, I did see a couple interviews with Marlon Vera, and I did like what I was hearing from him. It sounded very sincere. He wasn't talking his normal brash stuff, like, the trash talk, and that's not very good. But he was talking more in generalities and in realities, saying, like, look, I understand what my flaws are. I understand that, like, I'm a really high-level grappler, but I tend to go away from it because I like to strike, and I know my durability is going to carry me through, and I think I have this power to finish you. We went back to my grappling. We went back to grappling heavy in this camp, which is going to be interesting to see if that's true. He also said, I do really understand. I say it all the time, but I do understand. I do start late, and I got to step on my gas a little bit earlier, and I got to trust my cardio, and I got to trust these things. I got to trust what my team tells me. And he's in a spot here where he's still young enough to climb that rung to get to another title shot, but it's not going to be against a Sean O'Malley. You know what I mean? Like, nobody wants to see that rematch again. I don't want to see it. You don't want to see it. The UFC doesn't want to see it. It was too lopsided. It was too one-sided. So his hope now is he's got a couple paths where he's got a hope that Sean O'Malley loses, and then he puts enough of a run together where now, okay, this is a different fight now. This ain't O'Malley and him 2, where the first one was a run over where nobody wanted to see. This is Marlon Vera versus fighter B now, who just won the belt from so-and-so. So now we can set this fight up. But if he loses this fight, he just completely diminishes everything. Like he's just diminishing his chances and the time of his age longer and longer and longer. His window is starting to close. It's going to start to close, especially as O'Malley's champion. It's just going to take a little bit longer, unless O'Malley comes out and loses, at the Sphere. Then this fight will start looking good. Then he'll be okay. He beat Davis and Figueiredo. Maybe he buys one or two more together, and he gets a title shot with whoever's a champion if O'Malley doesn't get that automatic rematch. So, I like Vera here because I think his back is against the wall here, and I do think he realizes, like, this ain't a do-or-die situation for him from a championship perspective, but he can't afford to have many more brain farts. Like, he can't afford to have many more laps. He's only going to get older. The damage is only going to accumulate. His reaction times are going to get slower. And even though Davis and Figueiredo is a really, really tough out, it's a perfect name to put on his resume, like, to get back on the schneid, to show, like, I'm still here. Like, yeah, I got beat. I got pieced up. I got beat, but I just beat Davis and Figueiredo, former champion. I'm still here. I'm gonna make that run. So very, very close fight. But to me, it's kind of a dog or pass situation with Marlon Vera. Like I said, from a DK perspective, when you're looking at this fight and you're looking at rostering fighters, when you're looking for dogs and stuff, you're looking for a guy who's durable. You're looking at a guy who's going to fight for your money, who that's going to travel you into deep water, that's going to give you every second, every 10 seconds, every 30 seconds. It's going to give you that opportunity to win, keep you in the fight. So official picks going to be Marlon Vera by decision, but no super confidence there. All right, Tony Ferguson, Michael Chiesa. I don't know why Tony Ferguson's still fighting. When you look at this fight, Ferguson's lost 7 in a row. I'm torn here because I really want him to win this fight, but I'm afraid. I'm afraid if he wins this fight, what's going to happen is he's going to jump on the microphone like Anthony Smith, and he's going to say, well, champ shit only here, and, I'm only a couple fights away now. This is the weight class I want to be in. I feel fantastic. I'm reborn. With his stupid trash talk with McNuggets and this and that. And then there's a part of me that says, I want him to lose because I want this to end. Like, I want him to retire. I don't want him to take damage. I don't want this to happen anymore. This is like such a fall from grace from the boogeyman. The last time I saw a fall from grace like this was Renan Barão. For real. Renan Barão won like 20-something fights in a row, lost to TJ Dillashaw, and then just kept losing. It was like the craziest fall from grace I've ever seen. Tony Ferguson's right up there with that. I mean, how many fighters get the opportunity to lose 7 straight and still be on the roster? After being the boogeyman for as long as he was. So when I look at this fight, though, what the UFC did do is they gave him somebody that's not a finisher, somebody that's not going to give him major damage, somebody that's never had a knockout, somebody that's very grappling heavy, somebody who, when he does go to the ground, he does grapple, he also has a tendency to get submitted. He's very susceptible to Bravo chokes. And when you look at Tony Ferguson coming from that lineage of 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu, very slick, slimy style grappling, there is a window. There is a window that Tony Ferguson might be able to hook him up with something and submit him. And let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen, that line is plus 1,200. So it's just something to think about. That's just something to think about there. I mean, I'm picking Michael Chiesa to win this fight. I don't think he finishes him. I think it goes to the cards. I think it's probably a boring kind of spots where you're like, oh, wow, Ferguson, check him out. He's got top control. Or, if Chiesa takes his back, you're like, oh, is he going to submit him? Or, I don't think this fight ends that way with Chiesa. I think if he wins this fight, it's going to kind of be a pitter-pat decision. Ferguson won't take that much damage, maybe just get wrestled to death, and lose the decision. But if Ferguson takes a position on him where he can get his back, or he can get a situation where he's got actual grappling control, that plus 1,200 might look good. So this is a spot where if Tony's going to win a fight, it's going to be this fight. This is like the fight. Like, if you don't win this fight, like, just please give it up. Like, just, you got to go. Dana White's got to cut the cord on this guy. So it's a winnable fight, and it's a fight that they know, look, he's going to take minimal damage with this guy. He's not going to take a lot of damage with this guy, and it's a fight that he does have clear paths to win. So I'm going to go Chiesa here, but my heart is with Ferguson. Like I said, from a DraftKings perspective, from a wagering perspective, I think all the value is on Ferguson on both sides. Last one we're going to break down. We'll break down Mackenzie Dern and Lupi Godinez. When you look at Mackenzie Dern, we know what she is. I mean, this is probably one of the most elite Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu players in the UFC, men or women. Speaking of credentials, her lineage, who she comes from, who she's trained with, her accolades. But I've said this for years, and I don't say this I know the BJJ community probably hates when I say things like this. And it's no disrespect. I love BJJ. I've trained BJJ. But I've always said that BJJ is eventually going to get figured out. Like, it's going to be figured out. Like, eventually there's ways to nullify it. There's going to be ways to neutralize it. There's just going to be. And it's going to be by hell or high water. They'll figure it out. And more you're seeing that, it can be figured out. Like, you can neutralize it. And wrestlers have a really good optimization for it. And it's just top control. Don't let them get their hips loose. Make sure you either have 2 hands in or 2 hands out. Don't expose one arm in, one arm out. Don't let them activate their hips. Utilize your wrestling so they can't get you to the ground. If they can't get you to the ground, they can't submit you. Sure, they could jump your back and they could do slimy shit like that, but outside of that, like, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, what it once was, is taking kind of like 2 back seats to boxing, to kickboxing, to Muay Thai, to wrestling, and then it's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. You can teach somebody little sequences to nullify Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, positional control and takedown defense and stuff like that. You can't teach somebody overnight how to neutralize somebody throwing strikes at you, punches and bunches, and cutting angles and cutting corners. Like, that's a lot different. It's a lot harder to figure out. And wrestling is the same thing. Like, you can't just teach somebody to wrestle overnight or teach somebody great takedown defense overnight. Like, it's just so much more. So the thing with Mackenzie Dern is, as high as a grappler as she is, she's not a good wrestler. She has trouble getting the fight to the ground. Someone like Lupi has good wrestling. She utilizes that. She ties that together very well with her striking. She also has better striking. Mackenzie Dern's back with Jason Perillo. I think that was a great move. When she fought Angela Hill, she looked like a different person. Then she left Perillo, and the last 2 fights that she lost, she looked like she's never was striking a day in her life. So I'm assuming that her striking, I'm assuming her overall game is going to be better. But at the end of the day, if she can't get this fight to the ground, Lupi's going to win this fight. And I'm not confident that she's going to be able to ground someone like Lupi, who's so versed in wrestling and her takedown defense and her positional control and stuff like that. So I'm leaning Lupi in this fight. I know I know it's a really close line fight. The odds have been going kind of back and forth with this one, but I do like Lupi here. And I'm a big Mackenzie Dern fan. I am. I like Mackenzie Dern. I think she's good for the sport. I was pulling for her for a long time to hopefully maybe her win a strap. She just doesn't really evolve. She evolves from fight to fight. Like, she doesn't evolve in one single stream. She'll be good in one fight. She'll look like she'll evolve. Then she'll look like crap in another fight. Then she'll look good in one fight, looking crap in another fight. Ljubljana is this pretty steady state. Like, you know what you're going to get from her. She's going to tie takedowns together. She's going to get top position on you. She's going to grind you against the cage. She's going to strike with you. She's going to do a little bit of everything. You know, like, what her game plan is going to be. I'm assuming her game plan is going to change a little bit with Dern. She's not going to be so adamant about just sucking takedowns and sucking in the hips and going for, because she's got to be very strategic when doing so, because Dern will grab a neck on the way down. She'll grab a limb on the way down. She'll be fishing for, leg locks and stuff like that. So she's a very different animal. Like, when you take her down, you got to make sure it's a solid takedown. You're on top. You got positional control. You got good weight distribution. You got to be very, very mindful of how you approach Mackenzie. But I do think if Godinez decides to keep this on the feet, she also wins this fight. So I do like Lupi here. I think this fight does go to the cards. So I'm going to go Lupi Godinez by decision. And that will be it. We also have Mackenzie's lock pick of the week that she won last week. So we're going to put her on a 2-fight winning streak this week, and that is here. And that concludes this episode. So let's win some money. Let's get back on the winning side. Last week, like I said, we took 0.7, which was less than a unit hit. We're going to try to get that back this week. And I will talk to you guys later.